All right, what's up, Trash Talkers? What's up, Gruntworks Nation? We are live for your, I will call it your special. We've had a few specials on VTT and Gruntworks before, and they've all been bangers. All right, so I'm expecting this one to be a tremendous banger as it's a hot topic conversation that we have going on in our community now. However, we're here to hopefully not persuade you in any way, but to open your brains, open your minds, think about it a little bit, and maybe at the end of it, call your local representative, call one of your VSOs, and voice your opinion on what you think should or should not happen. Those of you who are watching or have seen the event, we are specifically talking about veterans paying companies to increase, all right, their benefits or increase their ratings, because cash is king in this country. And that is something that we want to talk about. So what I did when I was presented with this, and they're like, "Hey, Big Earl, will you chat about this? Will you come out with a statement about this?" I was like, "Not necessarily." I go, "But what I will do is I'll bring on two gangster veterans, both Army veterans, and doing awesome things in their local communities, doing a lot more than I am. And I'm going to bring them on, which they are here, and they're going to talk a little bit about what's going on specifically in my home state of California, and then also in the state of North Kakalaki, North Carolina, home of the Center of the Universe, Fort Bragg." But with us tonight, and thank you so much for you guys coming on. We got Jim, my buddy Jim, who I met last year, probably about a year ago, who is the legislative chair for the California Association Counties VSOs. And then we have Tanner, who is a member of the North Carolina AUSA Fort Bragg chapter, and very, very, very active in the community with the VFW and other things there. So what I got asked to talk about is a Senate Bill 694 in the state of California. And I don't want to discredit it by saying what I think about it just yet, or credit it. But I want to turn this over to Jim. Jim, thanks for joining us on Gruntworks and the Trash Talk channels to help raise awareness and talk about what's going on in the great state of California, and specifically your job in the county of Los Angeles.
Yeah, we share a common phrase that we both value, and that's accountability. So anytime you reach out, man, love to talk about accountability, hold ourselves accountable, and others. And looking forward to the conversation.
All right, and then Tanner from North Kakalaki.
Hey, great to be back. Thank you for having us. I think this is it's a controversial issue. It's a complicated issue. There's a lot of moving pieces to this. And I just really appreciate you providing a platform for us to be able to try to inform veterans about what's going on, like nationwide at this point, with some of these, state bills and national bills. So thank you for having us, man.
Awesome. And yeah, so again, just a background, because there's going to be some people watching who have not watched Gruntworks before, who have not watched Veteran Trash Talk before, friends of Tanner, friends of Jim. We started this 4 years ago. And we started this because while active duty in the Army, and we knew that there was going to be a rise in suicides and domestic violences in active duty and amongst veterans with COVID and with some of the regulations, which we're not going to get into. But what it turned into is this awesome monstrosity of pooling of resources over about 900,000 followers across all the platforms. And every single one of you are important, because you might not be active this month, you might not be active next month. And then the third month, 3 months from now, somebody says, "Hey, I got a problem in Montana," right? And somebody in Montana says, "I got you back, homie." And that's the whole point of this. And what we have developed in with our Trash Talk Hour and promoting veteran-owned businesses, first responder-owned businesses, nonprofits, for-profits, because we do like capitalism at VTT. It's true. And we understand that money makes the world go round, but we vet nonprofits. We try to figure out, okay, what are you doing? Who do you help? How do you help them? And then if we like you, we say, okay, how do we help you get your message across to other people? But a big piece of that pie, which I was warned, and I'm going to drop credit to a guy that I haven't talked to in a while. I'm probably going to call him after the show. Is old Ranger Sullivan. All right, probably one of the hardest dudes that I ever met in my life. And he doesn't like tennis, but I'm going to say this live, but he eliminated enemy with his helmet. All right, just going to put that out there. All right, like hard dude. Okay, and the first thing he said to me when I started this, he goes, careful, man. Veterans are super entitled. And he goes, they're really, really, it's going to eat at you. And so we kind of turned that into a positive to where, yeah, it's okay to feel a little entitled sometimes, but we are our brother's keeper. We will hold you accountable. All right. You have to own your decisions. You have to own. And then once you own them, once you come to terms with them, bring them out to the group, and then we can crush it together. Right. We can find a way to make it better together. But if you keep it hidden inside, or you just jump to the easiest next thing, nothing the community can really do to help you. All right. But if you do want to get better, if you do want to get awesome, that's why we bring a lot of people on this show. And that's who I have here. So that's what VTT and Gruntworks does. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about something that's really hot topic, and I'll let the professionals here that dabble in this talk about it first, and then I'll give you the big girls take on it a little bit later. So stick around for that. It'll be worth the wait. Trust me. But yeah, Jim, talk about Senate Bill 694. What is that all about? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so Senate Bill 694 put some civil penalties into process, or basically federal law. There's that you have credited to do the work. Initial claims as well as appeal, can't charge for initial claim. There's existing federal that makes it for their initial, and plus it mandates accreditation. So I'm also a licensed. I'm held accountable because I have to reach out to California State, get a number, and I have people come into me for services. They have a number that if I don't, I can reach out to, but I know that. So I know I have to follow a certain level. To example, there's a thing called duty to assist. I have a duty to assist everybody that walks in. And so if I don't, accreditation number as a that's posted under the California Board of Behavioral Science, which if I do unethical, if I call the house 20 or something like that, I can be held accountable. So that's really kind of the essence of the bill, is putting some civil to acts of helping veterans with their and being unaccredited, and for that claims that, and that's a lot of what we're companies charge for initial claims picking. What's going to be an easy one? CAB? Do they have a CIB? Oh, that's going to be easy. We're going to get 100%, make a lot of money, so we're going to cherry pick that one. This person, a lot of work. We're gonna know about the counter service officer or the you want me to keep going? Silence, but you give me that I need to keep going with you. And, we're in the middle of the current president, let's find the biggest guy. That's the opposition has a lot of money. Market with three systems. They also have a lot of money to do at the hall in Sacramento and elsewhere. So that's why we knew this is going to be a bar to take on right out of the, as we're in the middle of rebuilding. It's what right looked like. It's what did it, and that's been a fight. We're getting close to hopefully on the floor soon, the Senate floor soon for a final vote. We're working on getting the votes. We're going to get it there and take it to these guys. But we just, as an association, represent 56 of the 58 counties. The power of the work that we do. We in to back on our DIC, our heads and back when we know we can do it, and money stays in the pockets of these companies, and that's why we took it on. That's why we should be the case in the bar, and that's across the finish line, get it passed, despite what we're up against.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for breaking that down for us. And I look like what I have to do with when we bring on people who talk about important topics like this or VA loans or whatever, is I like to put it in the grunt terms, right? The infantryman's terms is what does this mean? But you are coming in a little bit choppy, so that's why I was kind of waiting to see if you were done. Maybe you got to reset that California Spectrum Wi-Fi and get it rocking and rolling. But just to be clear about this again, is it's already veterans are already federally protected from organizations charging them to do certain things. But what I'm hearing is there isn't actually a penalty for it, which doesn't stop people from capitalizing on it. Is that pretty much what I got from you?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
They're $73 billion, and you're getting a slap to the slayer. I mean, you're going to stop. Like,
Right.
And the average person, blame them, take the more. Not really. I mean, if I'm not eating my kids, but I'm like living pretty nicely, really, I'm just getting a arrested. I didn't do it. But there's the moral issue, and that's where we're coming that this is happening, and that's the difference.
Right. Hey, Jim, I'm going to ask you to do a favor. I'm going to bring Tanner on to talk about some things real quick. Log off, reset your router, and log back on. Should fix the issue, but we can definitely cover it till you come back on. It'll work for sure.
Right.
Just that's when you're if the radio's not working, you just all right, do a little bit of that little pinky finger into the radio, and it should work. Or you just yell at the RTO.
You're not scared, you stick your tongue in it, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But we everybody watching, again, this is about, and Jim's right with the number, $73 billion has been taken in by companies that help veterans increase their ratings. $73 billion. Now that $73 billion is taxpayers' money. Okay. That's taxpayers' money that is supposed to go to the veteran. Now, the veteran does sign up for this. And so we'll get into that a little bit. The veteran does sign up for this. And I'll wait for my take on it. But what's interesting, and I always say this on the Trash Talk Hour, especially with the Book of Earl, is I always say follow the money. All right. If you follow the money, it might not be as crazy or as a conspiracy as you think. Right. Like just follow it. So right now, the biggest lobbyist against Senate Bill 694 is a North Carolina company. And they are the biggest lobbyists in the state of California. So it's interesting. And that's why I'm like, oh, I know the guy for this. I'm going to ask Tanner if he wants to come on, who sits in all of these awesome meetings with a lot of North Carolina VFW and AUSA. Tanner, what's going on with, I believe it's the Veterans Guardian. What are they doing in North Carolina, and what are they doing in the state of California?
All right. So I got to give you a little bit of background. So essentially how I got involved in this is through, I sit on a bunch of committees. I'm a strong believer in the VFW. I obviously do a lot of work with AUSA. We do a lot of work with the community college system here in North Carolina. And we had a meeting with Rep. Rouser, who's I'm a constituent of him. And so let me stop there and say everything I'm about to say after this is my opinion, right, on my interaction in these meetings. However, I'm only in these meetings because of these other committees I sit on. So it's a fine line. And what I've told some of the guys today when I promised them I'd give them that disclaimer is like, well, y'all knew what y'all were getting when you put me on this anyway. So here we go. So I'm sitting in Rep. Rouser's office, and we're actually asking him to pull his support from what we call the Choice Act. So, like, how did we get here? a lot of you are familiar with the PAC Act and how it made access and service connected a lot easier for our veterans to be able to gain access to what they earn, right? Like honor the contract, right? Like you signed a contract, these things happen. You deserve to be compensated for that in accordance with that contract. What happened after that, and that was, I think that was in 22, is these kind of businesses blossomed, right? And for better or worse, and I'm never gonna go at anybody for living the American dream, right? Like we live in a capitalist society. If you have a service that you can provide, awesome. Where it got a little weird is Sampson County tradition. We don't have a huge veteran population. We do have some great VSOs, but obviously we're adjacent to the Moore County, which is where Southern Pines resolves. And I just see these people in interactions, and it just never quite sat right with me. Like we do, the Cumberland County Vet Council puts on our Vet Day Parade, and then I saw that Southern Pines was having the Veterans Guardian the Veterans Guardian Veterans Day Parade, and that just things like that. If you're in kind of the entrepreneurial field, start to kind of raise eyebrows. And then what ended up happening is we had a bill that one of the state reps had put some verbiage in to kind of cap essentially what would be the percentage of what you could charge time. So that anybody that's familiar with these services, the deal is basically they might charge you an upfront fee, they may not. It depends on the company. But essentially you're saying, hey, if you go from 10% to 100%, right? So that's a 90% increase. I'm just making up numbers here. Then essentially that company that assisted you in doing that would get 5 times that fee. So we've seen fees, and there's some excellent reporting out there on the Warhorse by, and I don't want to get her name wrong because man, me reading her stories really framed what I was seeing, right? And her name's Leah Rosenbaum for the Warhorse. But I was kind of seeing all this happen in the community, but I couldn't quite put it together, right? To your point, Nick, like follow the money. I was like, I just don't quite get what's behind like this massive movement and just the things you kind of hear in vet circles. And then they kind of laid it out pretty plainly, right? And there's been I was notified, and there's a couple class action lawsuits right now, against a couple of these companies. But then as I'm sitting in meetings with like Senator Tom Tillis, who has been extremely helpful for his team, Rep. Rouser's team has been extremely helpful to me in the moving industry and some stuff that we've tackled in the past. I've seen that, well, they're all taking pretty hefty donations from this company and this PAC, this Political Action Committee. And that's really what ended up happening is they basically took the verbiage out of the bill that I would say a coalition of VSOs, like the VFW, AUSA. A couple of these bills, the vet community here in North Carolina spoke out pretty forcefully of like, we don't want that, right? And then the verbiage that we didn't like in that bill kind of got slid into another bill when nobody was really watching, is how I would characterize it. Again, my own opinion. And then it got signed by the governor. And when we have Governor Stein signed it, he actually highlights, he's like, I'm worried that this is going to cost our veteran stuff, but it was a part of a larger veteran bill. Basically, they just put like a vets rights bill together, and this verbiage got slipped in. And he highlighted that he was concerned that this would take place. And that bill went into effect, and that should have been, I think that was Senate Bill 119 or 118. Forgive me if I get it wrong. But now in North Carolina, I would characterize this as a loss. We've kind of lost this, and now we're on the back foot, which you never want to parlay on the back foot. So what we're faced with now is at the national level, they have 2 big bills, and this is the thing that I would be paying attention to. And they all sound great. That's you know how they are, politicians are, right? Like every bill sounds amazing. One of them is the guard bill, and one of them is the choice bill, right? And the choice bill would basically make this essentially give a path to accreditation, and then also make this charging kind of mechanism legal nationwide, again with no penalties. And then the guard bill looks to reintroduce, as far as my understanding, some of what the California bill is articulating, which is essentially like, hey, if you were found to be doing this XYZ behavior, nefarious or not, then we can look at civil and criminal like penalties for it. So essentially trying to protect the veteran, and that's at the national level what we're faced with right now. And if you look at this chart here, you can kind of simultaneously track it, right? 2022, we're doing PAC Act, right? 23 and 24, you're looking at the Guard and the Choice Act kind of being fighting each other. But they both sound great for vets. If you're just a veteran, I wouldn't, and you're just kind of giving cursory attention to this issue. You're not necessarily going to pick up on the nuances. And again, like I never want to prohibit any veteran from pursuing anything, right? To get what they've earned. What I would caution and why, I'm excited about this conversation is I think the veteran service officers that are at the county level are how we fix this. Because to my point as a taxpayer and a small business owner, my taxes already pay for this service. So it's frustrating to me when I look at this chart and I see what 2,378,750 actively working against what the nonprofit, and just as a concerned veteran as I am, I see that amount of money working against what we're trying to say is the fix, which is, you did the PACT Act in the beginning, but no money was sent to the county VSOs at all, right? That's a county problem. But they're the frontline defense of like how we get this done, how we get this right, like community-based, go see your guy or girl at the VSO, and they'll take care of you. And that's kind of, the conversation that I think as a vet community, we need to start to have. Like, yeah, it might be easier to sign up. And maybe some people are in a financial position where they don't need to worry about giving away, at a certain point, if it's a drastic one from the 10% to the 100% guy, like it ends up being like $20,000. Right. And that, as a capitalist myself, just doesn't sit right with me. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, we need to talk about where, yes, a true capitalist would say, well, the government shouldn't be picking winners and losers. And right now, to me, it really looks like we've given an open avenue to pick winners and losers. And I have concerns about that, and I understand it's a controversial conversation, but I think it's one we should be able to have without, as you would like to say, everybody getting triggered. And so,
yeah, Book of Earl, chapter 1, verse 1.
Hey, can I jump in here real quick, man?
Absolutely. But hey, before you go, Jim, those of you watching and listening, this is a conversation, right? So post your questions, post your thoughts, right? Should it be legal for somebody to charge to increase your benefits? Why should it be? Why shouldn't it be? Did you use somebody to get your benefits? Put your things in the chat. Let us break those down. But go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say they have a pathway to accreditation right now. They can get accredited. That's the problem. They can get accredited, but they don't want to play by the rules.
Why don't they?
Because if I get accredited, I can't charge for the initial claim. And like I was saying earlier, you got a Purple Heart, a cab, a CIB. Come on in. Like, hey, you want some of this, sparkling water we got in our lobby? Well, this is the place, But, if somebody comes in, with, a very complex background, where you're going to have to spend a lot of time with them digging for evidence, things like that. They're not bound by duty to assist like we are. We have to assist everybody that comes through the door. And so, because they're unregulated, they're able to send folks that are going to take a lot of their staff's time to us, the ones that they know they're going to have the best opportunities, and invest maybe a half hour worth of their time and get that $20,000, $30,000 paycheck. They're going to take them and they're going to prioritize them. So, I mean, that's another part of the equation. There's a pathway to accreditation right now and to do it legally. They just don't want to play by the rules because you're not going to make as much money.
Hey, I was reading something in that bill for the SB 694, which I really like. Again, we try to look at things through our own prism, like try to get outside of it, look at it through somebody else who is getting caught up in some of this stuff, or where they just clicked on a link, right, that is going to help them, right, because they're struggling, and I will. Tanner knows me, Jim, you know me for a year. Tanner's known me for a while. I consider myself pretty freaking smart, right? I struggled getting some of my VA stuff squared away. Like, I struggled with it. It was like, what do you mean I got to do this? Roger that. I'll do that. Well, now I have to have 7 different sign-ins to like get just to my own medical record. And I'm like, what is this? Right? So I read something in the bill that it's targeting to where there are the organizations like the one we showed earlier, the Veterans Guardian, that they ask for your login for your VA.
Yeah.
Like, talk about that. What is that? Like, what is the point of having that?
Yeah, so I mean that allows them to submit on the veteran's behalf as the veteran. So that's another piece. If you go through the accreditation process, you get access. We have access to VBMS. We don't need anybody's login. We do it the right way. We get a power of attorney from the veteran or the dependent, whoever we're working with. That gives us access to VBMS, which is the Veteran Benefit Management System, where all the benefit work is going that the VA is doing goes into that system. So it's all legal. And again, we're accountable. Like we do something funny, we're looking into a veteran's record who we don't have, or something was pulled. Like we can't see anything if we don't have the power of attorney, the permission. But say we were doing something, in the system that we shouldn't do. Again, we have that OGC number. We can be reported. The veteran can report us. We can lose the accreditation. We lose our job. It's just like licensed clinical social workers, medical doctors, all the other things that each of our states kind of, have licensing for. It's similar, but it's on the federal level and through the VA. And another piece that I would mention is, I had it in my head right there and I blanked on it, but it's very Oh yeah. I was working with a neighboring county to LA,
10%
which
more. You forgot. Your memory's gone.
No,
Only
it was
5% of that.
it was like that before the military, man. Like that's military intelligence. I was telling you guys earlier, it's one step above an ASVAB waiver. But no, I was working with this office, senator's office next to LA County. His liaison is a Purple Heart recipient, and we were talking. He was like, "Man, you guys are not helping me," And I went to this other place, that charged, and boy, I could get my medical records just like that. And so part of the equation here is it's hard to get VA clinicians to fill out the paperwork to have the medical evidence. But these companies, they buy doctors, they buy medical professionals, and they can send documents over to them, and veteran shows up, boom, they got the medical documentation. So really what's at the heart of this is we wish we had less work as county veteran service officers if we can, as we continue to work with the VA to reform the system and make it simpler. It's because it's so complex. And in order for us to lose our, to not have as much work, in order to, the ultimate way to put these companies out of business is to work with the VA, help them reform the system so that it's simple. You can get your medical documentation. So there isn't this, process where you can, pay medical professionals for these documents that veterans need in order to get placements. And once I explained that to him, and I explained VHA Directive 1134, which came from central office, VHA central office, telling the clinicians that in the medical centers that they do have to provide that documentation when requested. It's implementation. It's like, you can write a law, you can write a policy, but it's really the magic is how you get it implemented. It's just not, implemented. So that's another piece of this equation is, they can get medical documentation because they can pay doctors and medical professionals to work for them, where we have to work through VA clinicians and the VA process, which can be cumbersome. Or we have to reach out to their private doctors that they're using private insurance for and hope that they get the documentation to us, because it's, we have power attorney, we have the legal way to make that happen. It's just, they're not incentivized because they're not paid to work for us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think
It does make sense. And so what would it make sense to say to especially California veterans, because this bill it should be going to vote here soon. Would it make sense for California veterans and or supporters of veterans to call their local representative and say, how come a veteran has to pay somebody else? Right? Is that a question of like, and then again, the accreditation, like you're talking about, they already have a path to accreditation, but they don't because, like you said, then they can't charge for that initial fee, and that again, that's where they lose their money and follow that. But would it make sense to say, hey, California supporters of veterans, and I'm going to go on a tangent here because the big girl does. I know a lot of civilians. I run into a lot of civilians that really want to help, right? They really want to be a part of the solution to veteran homelessness, taking care of our first responders and veterans. And then we have to be very careful on a show like this because, as I learned through a lot of great human beings when we did the Task Force Lahaina, which spawned here and took care of a lot of the people in Maui with the fires, is right away some really, really influential people said, get on social media and stop the rumors. And he's like, even if those rumors become true later, that's fine, but stop the rumors now because the support stops coming. Right? If everybody thinks that, oh, this is an inside job and nobody really got killed, no fires really burnt anybody's property down by accident, you're going to lose support. So what I don't want to lose support with this show. I don't want to lose support, whether it's right or wrong for other companies as well. So what would be a good advice to a California veteran? To where with this state bill, what should they be calling, or somebody who wants to support them, what should they be calling their local representative and saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really complex. The problem is complex, but the solution is simple. We should not have to pay to get access to our benefits. Yes, we have to go through the federal process, and the state, is not part of that process. But we should not have to pay. And so the state needs to look for solutions with their CVSOs, with the VSO partners to provide these services for free and continue to advocate and be a partner to the VA to help reform, what they're doing. And there's been a lot of, stuff cooking at the federal level with the VA to make things better. And so, I think that's really it. Like we shouldn't have to pay. And county VSOs and VSOs need support. Like the state needs to increase the level of support for CVSOs and VSOs that are accredited. So, I think the other pieces is like we also want the state to create more accountability for CVSOs. I mean, that's the big thing that our opposition says is, 70% of our, and they're pulling this number, from who knows what. But 70% of our folks come from CVSOs or VSOs that are accredited because they didn't get what they needed. Well, hold us accountable. Our association has been very vocal with the state. Like, send a survey to every single person that we serve. It's your database. The contact information for the men and women that come to us, you have it. Send out a survey to each and every one of them and create like a trust report. Would you refer your buddies? I mean, the biggest compliment I've ever gotten in my 16-year career as a social worker is, dude, I'm going to refer my buddy that I served with in Iraq who is on my fire team because this is the place to be if you're an Iraq veteran. That's what we want to know. Like, would we get that same endorsement from every person walking to our office? If not, we're going to be able to study the pain points. What was it about the visit? Was it the wait time? Was it, the lack of training of our staff? Like, we want to get after the issue and we want to be held accountable and we want to make the service better. So hold us. I mean, I would say veterans in California, let your state senators and assembly members know, like, we want more accountability with our CVSOs. And I'll tell you what, our association would welcome that. And we would appreciate that backup because that's what we've been telling the state. And there's progress coming at the state, but to hear it from you, their constituents, there's nothing more powerful.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know how it is in California, Nick, but like for us, right? Like, and I hope he's watching, Chris Comfort, he's one of my county commissioners, right? Like, to the vet community, I would tell you, like, this is one of the most messed up things about this issue is also the best for us, is that the county commissioners who set the county's budget, or who's control in North Carolina at least, or is who controls that VSO's at least baseline funding, right? And so that's almost what's frustrating for vets on this end is, like, I had this huge lobbying effort that's telling my state reps and my national reps how messed up this thing is, right? And they're able to benefit from it while they and so therefore divert funding away from the people that are actually, out there, in my opinion, fixing it. But then they use that to beat them in a bat, beat them with the bat on social media. And then that just, it goes into the messaging overall. So that, to me, I would tell veterans that want to get engaged with this. And again, this is not me speaking on behalf of any organization. I think that the veteran service and for the counties is where we fix this problem at, because they're the ones that deal forget us. This is going to sound callous, right? Forget us. I'm more concerned about the Vietnam vet, right? That right now, this is my concern. It's getting robocalled by these companies every single day, right? To up his thing, and he knows his county commissioner, right? He's just sitting in his house, or she's sitting in his house, and they're just getting pelted by, you should be getting this, you should be getting this, and then they're also the people that are there that your tax dollars already pay for, they're going to fail you. And look, you're, like you said, the 70% number that they pull out of wherever, right? And then they do that, and then that guy has a bill to pay, or he has to pay up front to go see the doctor that they have. And that was the feedback I got from some VSOs in North Carolina, where, again, the kind of troubles, like, okay, they got doctors on the payroll, they got lawyers on the payroll, they know the legalese battle that needs to be fought. They ride a very fine line, and I'm sure Jim can correct me on the verbiage here, but essentially the law comes down to, like, they're not allowed to prepare, they can assist, or whatever the verbiage is that their whole company model is built off of, which is essentially, well, we don't actually prepare it, we're just consultants, right? Okay, yeah, we have his login info for his VA stuff, or her login and for VA stuff, and we upload it, and actually we've gotten some of the percentages that they didn't even know about, right? And the accountability inside of that system, I think that, in the veteran community, we really need to take a hard look at how this ends up, because to me, it ends up with stories like we got in the Washington Post, right? Where now we have this national narrative coming, it's just all this fraud. Well, that's very hard to combat when you have, retired lieutenant colonels, right, at the center of the universe, spending millions of dollars nationwide to say,
nationwide, not just in their state, nationwide.
You know what I mean? Not in our little bucket, but we're spending all this money to then alter these laws to then benefit. So you've essentially crippled. You're actively working to cripple the system that you're going online and telling everybody that's broken, and that's a tough conversation to have.
Right, because there's the devil's advocate, not even the devil's advocate, just the advocate, right? The advocate that says, let's take a page from, Denmark, Sweden, to where they privatize their healthcare. They tax the crap out of their civilians, but the healthcare is privatized, right? It's corporations running it, right? Their argument is, and here's where I get nervous, because like I said, there's so many great VSOs out there, so many, and that have went through the accreditation, have went through this, and then you get, a couple people who can jump on the bandwagon of a bad experience at the VA or a bad experience with their benefits, and now all of a sudden the whole system's shot, and they feed off of that. And that's very dangerous to the veterans. And I think that's where you were going with and this is to the civilians out there. You hear these stories of, the VA's garbage. The VA can't handle this. The VA can't take care of this. The VA can't take care of that. We've said this on Veteran Trash Talk and Gruntworks plenty of times, where the community takes care of each other better than anybody else. More better, right? More better than anybody else. Okay. The VA is there because they're supposed to be there. Now so here's where how I'm gonna phrase this question to you two is, again, very dangerous to say that we need outside parties, private parties to do this, right? And then it cripples the system to where so many more people are benefiting from that system, and you're gonna cripple it so that you can take that 50% of that veteran's money, that taxpayer's money that's supposed to go to that veteran, right? So my question is what is this bill, Jim? Let's do it to Jim first. Jim, what does this bill, Senate Bill 694, do to put strength back behind those that have dedicated their lives to taking care of veterans, and not just somebody going off the feed of, like the VA's in shambles, they can't do the ratings properly?
Yeah. Well, I think, people are worried about, like, the thing that bothers me about this stuff the most is, like, choice. Well, veterans should have choice. Well, you look at the healthcare side with the VA. When you go outside the VA, it's you have choice, but you're not paying the full medical bill, or you're not paying a big portion of the medical bill. The choice of, like, paying $30,000 for benefits, or the choice of going to a VSO for free, it's misleading. Like, yeah, veterans have earned the right, we have earned the right to have a certain amount of choice, but this situation is wrong. And so bringing it back and like getting rid of folks that are practicing unaccredited, it just brings regulations. Like, on the healthcare side, if a hospital treats a vet, sends a bill to the VA and they do something like really wrong, they screw up, well, their JCO accreditation could be pulled as a hospital. The medical professional license could be, there's some level of accreditation and regulation. Like in the benefit side, it's the Wild West, man. And I'm not talking bad about the Wild West. I watch a lot of cowboy and Western movies, but it's a situation where we're not protected. They screw over a veteran. There's no protection, like it's a legal business operating. And that's the worry. So it protects veterans and the family members on the benefit side. And that's what that does. It's not, the opposition said, oh, well, you guys are just doing job set, you're securing your own jobs. Like BS, man. I get job offers all the dang time, man. Like I'm here because I want to be here. LA County has led the way in many ways. California Association of County VSOs, we're kicking ass. We're getting support from the California legislature, from CalVet. Like I'm here because I want to be here. Not, I'm not here to protect my job. Like, there's this public perception like, government employees are just there to protect their job. We earn that. So I own that and I'm not discrediting that, but I'm telling you, this movement in California, that is not the situation. We're here because we want to be here. We do what we do because we want to do it. And it's moral on top of a legal issue. There's a federal law right now. And if they didn't strip the language imposing criminal penalties back in 2006, these guys would not be in business, because at the federal level it'd have both the penalties and the law.
Yeah, I'll go to Tanner with this one because I think you're spot on there. And please, in the chat there, let me know if we're not spot on here. Talk about your experiences with the VA. Talk about your experiences looking for help, looking for resources, where you couldn't find it. And again, we say it's pretty hard in 2026 not to find the resources that are free. But yeah, a county worker, a government worker, and we went through this with Doge, right? Right. You shouldn't. Every day you go to work as a civil servant, you are proving your job, right? You're supposed to be proving your worth to your job. And you mentioned this, and I'm going to direct a question to Tanner here in a second. You mentioned it and proved it by I'm losing my train of thought here about how why should I have to prove my job? Like, you don't. You are doing your job. They have to come in, right? That's what I was getting at. You have a right to serve everybody that comes in, right? You have to do. What'd you call that? Where you have to treat everybody that comes in.
Duty to assist. Yeah.
Duty to assist. That was what that was what's racking my brain. Duty to assist. All right, back on track. You have a duty to assist. So every day you're proving your worth. Every day you're proving your job. You go get a job in the corporate world, you can have some bad days and maybe nothing happens to you. Right? Like, you have a bad day as a government service rep, like you can do some real crippling damage. Right? And now you're not as valuable. And here's the issue again that I want to hammer home to our audience, right or wrong, you will scare away the people. We need the community to help veterans. We don't need just veterans. We need the community. Mm-hmm. So if you start trashing what these great VSOs are doing over a couple of things, right? You are really hamstringing the people that are dedicating their lives, right? And for a lot less pay than a lot of other people, right? To help and to do things like what Jim is capable of doing, what Jim's education is, what he's skilled at. You could be making a lot more money. I know he knows that, right? But he's doing something to help. So he has to prove himself every day, whether he says he doesn't or not, because he is accountable. And that's what this SB 694 is holding people accountable. You want to help veterans, get accredited. Go get accredited. So here's my question to Tanner, because this kind of this stings me, and it's something that we got when we started VTT. We started getting a lot of stories of MST veterans, right? And talking to veterans that were sexually assaulted. And then we get into this whole narrative of, well, what about the false reports of sexual assault, Okay, what about them? Right? And are there a few of them? Yes, but the data's come back. The data is clear. It is such a minuscule number that you want us to trash the whole system because somebody made one false claim. So you want to destroy something that is helping hundreds of thousands of people because one veteran or two veterans or three veterans or their 70% number or whatever that is, which is, I have to find out what that number is. It's come back to me on that one. But Tanner, what is your opinion on that? Again, like, how does the community stay engaged? How does the community have faith? How do they stay engaged and have faith in the VSOs?
Yeah, man, I think that I'll give you an example. So Moore County, which hosts Southern Pines, their VSO budget, they have 6 full-time employees, and their budget's just over like $500,000 for payroll and all services. The juxtaposition here is pretty cool, right? I'm in Sampson County. We have 2 employees. I think we have, and they're both VSOs. 2 sweetest old ladies you'll ever meet. Shout out to Ann Knowles. But essentially, you have like
That's
LA
Sergeant Knowles' wife?
No. But I mean, what's for the viewers, man, what you have right now is you have the juxtaposition of one of the largest counties in the country, right? And then and nothing. I love Sampson County. We're like the most red county in the state, but we're small, right? Like very, very sparsely populated. My backyard's a hog farm. My front yard's a tobacco field, right? And so we just have different meats. But what you're getting now is the same things that Jim is saying is being echoed by the smallest county in North Carolina, right? And so when we're saying, hey, we got to kind of empower, I would look at the hope is the community based, because I agree with you. You have to be community based. So where the state reps can help provide some regulatory and hopefully punitive actions, right? Where I think this goes better is, being engaged at like the county commissioner level to make sure that they're properly funded. One of the things that I heard that kind of, and articulated by the owners of some of these companies was, in a perfect world, our job wouldn't exist. Right. And when I hear things like that, I was like, okay, well, how do we get to a more perfect world? We have this great system, right? And this is I'm going to get to the accountability piece. We have this great system apparently that works. I mean, out of their own mouths, they have a 90% success rate, right, on their vet claim. And I'm like, man, if you've got that good of a system, and I could take a guess as an entrepreneur, right? You've looked at all the case law, and this is out of some of their own mouths. You've looked at all the case law, and you understand intimately the CMP process, and you've articulated that into a very efficient. This is where capitalism is great. We've made this super efficient for you to be able to respond to these claims, right? Like, to me, I'm like, man, that'd be the entrepreneur in me says if I didn't want to feel like an asshole, for a lack of a better term, I would just package that and sell it back to the VA. Like, dude, look, I got a way better system than you, right? But if I was really trying to solve this problem, I'd be selling my system, right? It's how my brain works. Like that would be kind of, okay, if you've got it figured out so well, what I think where veterans have to ask themselves the question is like, well, do they really have it figured out so well, right? Or is it because the VSO doesn't have a doctor on the payroll, right? And if they don't, then fine. Look, legislatively, let's look at the county level, providing them with medical expertise that could fund this. And I promise you we'll get off more cheap than we are right now. Right. And it's kind of, to me, it's just being Nick, we've been doing this a while now. I've been obviously on the show a decent amount of times. What I've learned is the majority of the problems that I thought were national level problems, right, I solve with the county commissioners, city councils, maybe a state rep, maybe we get there, right? But asking the federal level, I would be asking, the only thing to do federally, unless they're going to put the punitive, like make it criminal and civil, like complaints, be able to action this, is you have to look at it as like, well, I just have to empower the county, right? The lowest form of government I have to be able to give them the tools to be able to solve this problem, and I have to be an advocate for that. So, and I think there's a lot of faith in that. When you have a county VSO office that's clicking and humming, there's nothing they can't do, right? And the accountability on the side of it, you're not going to get left out. And maybe you need to be a little bit more patient, but we're used to that, right? And a lot of it's the outreach. Like I can't imagine what the county VSO's advertising budget is. I bet it's nothing, right? Like, so it's not like they have this great leg up, right? I'm not get, we've been doing some research the last couple of days. Every feed I have and every Google, like every time I open a log page now, I have 10 claim assistant companies ads, that are showing me to, hey, go through this. So what I would ask the local vets that are trying to figure out how to navigate this is like making connections in your actual community, to me, is the answer to a large part of this problem. And on the back end of it, where I'm concerned is if we farm this out to privatizing, we're going to end up with a major backlash, right? Because what's going to happen, dude, and I'm forget all the companies we've talked about. If this remains to go unchecked, right, they're going to have videos of these dudes flying in on private jets to like DC or something stupid. It's a dumb amount of money that's being spent. And at a certain point, we kind of have to, in my mind, we have to kind of police our own and be like, hey, man, I understand the legalese of this. Like, I get it, because, we're all about that action and we all want to make money. But we are not solving the problem here, right? Like that Vietnam vet, the Korean vets that we have left, the world, like these guys that are the most at risk don't understand not that they don't understand, but they're the ones, to me, that are the ones that are being, in my mind, being taken advantage of. And then we end up with the situation we have, where now we have, there's certain states that have outlawed, right? And which is why California is a hot button issue right now. North Carolina, they have a pass, right? Until legislative action takes, that they're free to operate. And we have to get smart about that. And I think that, again, I've been talking too long. You got to get with your local community, man, and you got to know who your county commissioners are. You have to know who your county. Like, I think I was talking to Chris before. He didn't even know that he had a county VSO. Some counties don't, because they're not funded. So we have to. That's, to me, step one. It's like, if I'm in a county that doesn't have a county VSO, and you're sitting here telling me you're this vet friendly, we're doing all the bumper stick patriotism stuff, then city councils and county commissioners have to step up to fund those programs. And to me, that's the way forward, because you're not going to, unless they make it illegal, which maybe they do, if the GUARD Act passes, right, we put some of this punitive stuff, and a few of these companies get like legit time or, significant fines would tamper it down. But it is absolutely the Wild West right now, right? And there's no continuity across the entire country. Some have no caps on, like North Carolina has 5%. Some of them can charge 7-10%. It kind of varies state to state. So you have to get engaged with that if you want to see a real solution, or if not, we're we're kind of at their whim.
Tanner,
Right.
I mean, you what you said really makes me, sorry to jump in here, but really got me thinking. So, I mean, I want to pose a question, to the audience. Like, in California, we get $78 per claim that we do from the state. Counties are fund about 70%. So you calculate that maybe $235 per claim that we do. Do you think these organizations that are paying millions of dollars in lobbying would lobby for a bill that would give them $240 per claim and force them to do duty to assist? I'm just putting that out there for my fellow vets, man. I mean, if you think the answer is yes, then, but I tend to think that the answer is no. And that's why they're trying to, you mentioned the federal legislation, Tanner. They're pushing for a $12,500 cap.
Nick, you'll get a kick out of this. Nancy Mace, and you can read, guys, there's
Yeah, I know Nancy.
Yeah, so Nancy was sponsoring at one point. She was, and if I get this wrong, whatever, y'all can correct me in the comments. But essentially, she was sponsoring the Choice Act, and then something happened internally. And then when one of the owners was being questioned about it in a congressional hearing, and this is part of Leah Rosenbaum's reporting, she's asking him, the question gets posed: can you confirm or deny if you made $100 million last year? If your company did. And the owner said, I have to get back to you on that. And Nancy Mace's answer was like, I bet you do. Right. So there's fracturing here, and there's, I'm all good. The wink, smile, and nod of like how we're getting around the legalese. Like, I've never been really too mad at anybody riding dirty, but we are now like gas to the pedal. Like if you think about a 100-mile-per-hour OJ, race, that's what I feel like we're in. Like, we're all watching the cops chase this thing, but they ain't never gonna catch them. And and that's where I reach out to you because, like, man, this ain't right. And, if we can't police our own, I really, it bothers me that we can't police our own, that now we have to have legislators step in to try to, like, curl this down. Like, did we all raised our right hand? You know what I mean? And you can't tell me
Right.
you're cool with this.
Yeah, and Jed Berman, well, you got Tony Torres on there talking about how Harnett County will help you, but Moore County doesn't know what they're doing. That's that North Carolina jargon. That's that NASCAR jargon about who's the better driver. And then follow that right back.
Great, right, man? But a lot of these companies, they donate heavily to local politics. So am I surprised that Moore County is trash? No. You know what I mean? Like what's like?
And then you got Jed underneath it with there needs to be consistency. And then I think this goes into, hey, if there was a perfect world, how do we get to a perfect world? Washington State has a horrible VA for advocacy, and then I moved to Texas, I was taken care of properly. Okay, here I'm going to give my little spin on it now because I think this is a good segue into it of where exactly what Jed's talking about. Now I've dealt with 2 VAs since I've been retired and shortly retired, 2022. Okay, I did a VA in El Paso and I did a VA in LA. So I have 2 experiences, and I think they're not quite polar opposites, but they're on the bell curve of just on the opposite sides. To where El Paso didn't have a lot of resources, but had really, really it wasn't as populated. So you got to go in and get seen. You got to go in and talk to people. But again, they're like, oh, we can't do that here. Oh, we can't do that here. Well, but I heard my buddy was doing that over in Washington. I heard my buddy was doing that in whatever here. Oh, we don't have that here. Like, okay, so then what do I do? Right, as the big Earl, I call my local representative. Right, this is where any political conversation you ever get in with the big Earl, the first question I ask you, I go, who is your, and I'll give you the benefit of the doubt first. I'll ask you the big topic when I go, who is your congressional representative in your district? If you don't know that name, we're not having a conversation. All right. And then you say that name, and then I go, okay, who is your local representation? Right? Who's that? Right? Because that's who you should be calling. And I will give, and I say this, and Tanner knows me, Jim's known me for a year. I tend to be heavily more on the conservative side. All right. Veronica Escobar did me super solids in El Paso. Right. And that was because that one had to get escalated to a federal level because it was with my favorite medication that I get, which is the Marinol. Right. So I had to escalate that one. Right. But then there's other ones where I got to call a local rep and find out what we're doing here. Why don't we have this here? You have to take action. I did the Book of Earl last week of so what? Right? So what are you going to do about it? You want to whine and complain. What are you going to do about it? And if your answer is, I'm going to go pay somebody else to do it. All right. Cool. That was your choice. Here's where I have a major issue, and here's why I'm urging California veterans and civilians, because again, civilians, you are a major role in this. You are a major role. You have, if you don't have to, but if you want to support veterans, because it sounds cool. Like you said, Tanner, every veterans bill, it breathes glorious, right? Like we're taking care of veterans. We're ending homelessness. Empower us. All right, empower veterans to take lead in their life, take charge of their life, own their demons, crush their demons, right? And a lot of that can be handled with a little bit of care, a little bit of humility and handling. Here's why I want every California civilian and veteran to call their local representative and talk about SB 694. Is if it doesn't, I always get angry about this, the difference between morals and ethics. All right. And I said this in a meeting with the head of the VA in El Paso. And it was glorious. We were talking about medication. And he brought both morally and ethically. You know that statement, right? When somebody says it both, like it's morally and ethically wrong. And I stopped him and I said, and thankfully there was 2 awesome doctors sitting next to me, and both happened to be African American women, right? And this was big for me because I already had the freaking punchline coming up for this one. And I was like, well, let me explain morals and ethics to you real quick, that everybody here at this table can understand. All right. Ethically, 40 years ago, they couldn't vote. Okay. Ethically, that was correct. Morally, we all knew that was wrong. That was wrong, right? So like, don't put those two together. Ethically, right now, there is no punishment for what these, like the veterans guardians doing. Ethically, they're fine, right? Federally, it's against the rules, but there's no punishment. So, sure, yeah. Sorry, boss. If it doesn't tug on you morally that your taxpayers' dollars are getting double dipped right now, because that is exactly what they're doing. All right. They are double dipping on your taxpayers' money and taking it from the veteran and putting it in their pockets. That is morally wrong in the Big Earl's opinion. And Dave knows this. Dave had to leave. Too bad he had to leave. Faceman had to leave. I can't stand when somebody says as a veteran. All right. As a veteran, this should be the way it's done. Okay. Now look, if you ask me as a veteran what I think, I'm not gonna say as a veteran. I'm gonna say as Big Earl, who retired out of the Army as a first sergeant, right? Ranger qualified, Jedi Master qualified, Jump Master qualified, every bell and whistle you can possibly freaking get, right? Purple Heart recipient, Emmy Marksmanship badge, everything, all that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. Scott Peters says, screw that. Screw what? Let us know, Scott. Would love to hear it. My opinion is you should never have to pay for what you earned. Shouldn't have to pay for it. Does the VA make mistakes? Absolutely. Right? No one is above reproach. No one. And so we shouldn't be chasing perfection. We have great VSOs. VSOs need to be empowered more. All right. They need to be empowered more because they went through the accreditation. They have the people, like Jim said, they have to help you when you walk in that door. And they're going to get paid $78 to help you. All right. Not 20 grand. All right. And if you as a veteran, and this is where the Big Earl comes in, you as a veteran, if you have to work that hard to get your ratings up, let's take a look in the mirror. Okay. Let's take a look in the mirror. Maybe you don't need it. All right. Maybe your ankle isn't that bad. Maybe your knee's not that bad. Maybe your shoulders aren't that bad. Maybe a lot of this can get taken care of with some physical exercise, some proper diet, yada, 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 yada. I don't want to get into all of that. But if you have to fight that hard for your benefits, please reach out to me. Reach out to me. I will point you into the right direction of who you need to talk to, where you don't have to pay. Like I said, what is it? Sometimes 20 grand, 20, 30 grand, right? To somebody who just maybe read the book that you're supposed to read, right? Is that worth it? Is that worth it for you to do that? I'll read it for you and I won't charge you a dime. I promise you. All right. And neither will Jim, neither will Tanner, neither will the VFW in North Carolina, neither will a lot of the VSOs in LA County. They won't charge you a dime. Go in there, find out what you got to do, go do it. If you can't, and you need to pay somebody to do it for you, I'm begging you right now, just message me. I will find it for you. All right? I will find it for you. You don't even have to pay for it. And what I really like about this SB 694, which is not a veteran trash talk take, it's a Big Earl take. All right, a Big Earl take on this SB 694 is it is forcing people to get accredited. Go get accredited or get out of the business. All right, be accredited to take care of veterans and stop trashing. I have had great success with a lot of the VA. Stop trashing the people that are working their tails off to help veterans so that you can have your mansion in Pinehurst. Yeah, look me up, buddy. Call me, all right? Because I'll say this right now. You get out as a lieutenant colonel, that's saying something, all right?
Saying something without saying something, boss.
Saying something without saying something, and I'll back that up, right? Like, unless you were medically discharged, it's a different story, right? Like it's saying something.
We all from around the way. We know what it is. Like, that's what's like mind-boggling to me. I'm like, bro, this is Fort Bragg, dude. Like, don't
Right,
piss on
so-
my leg and tell me it's raining. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to end with this. People will say, well, why do these companies exist? I want you to, everybody makes jokes about the 18%, 25% interest rate for Challengers and Chargers, right? Every staff sergeant that's watching this, or Sergeant E5 that's watching this, when one of your Joes re-enlists and gets a bonus, and you have to counsel them on their financial readiness, there is a list of places that you tell them that they cannot go. You cannot go here. You cannot go here and buy a car from here. You cannot go buy a laptop from that guy in the mall, right? Like, remember that guy in Fort Bragg who's selling that at the mall, right? You can't go buy a laptop from that guy at the mall, right? Because he's full of shit. Okay. Does he provide you the service? Yup. Right. But you're going to pay for it in the back end. You guys supporting these companies that are not getting accredited, all right, are hurting the veterans in the back end. All right. You're hurting. So this isn't as a veteran. Okay. This is somebody who has struggled with the VA. This is somebody who has benefited from the VA. This is somebody who walked into their VA benefits rating appointment and asked the doctor, did I do something wrong? Because it only took like 45 minutes. And I heard horror stories about everybody having to take an hour, 2 hours, right? And they're like, no, your records are pretty solid. And, we don't really have much to ask you. I'm like, okay. And I'm waiting, and you get your ratings back, and the ratings will surprise you. They'll surprise you on how they rated you, right? Again, that's where the accountability to where go call your state representative and say, hey, how come I only got a rating for this? I need you to ask these guys this, because every time I try to call them, I don't get anything. Call them. They will. They are civil servants. They will serve you. All right. And it might take 2 or 3 phone calls, but do it. All right. So again, not as a veteran, not as a, Ranger qualified infantry, whatever, not as any of that. None of that matters. None of that makes me a VA loan expert. None of that makes me a VA benefits expert. All right. As an accountability expert, which I consider myself, you own it, and do not pay for it. Do not pay for somebody to increase your ratings because they are buying a doctor that says you deserve 100%. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you know deep down inside whether you do or you don't. You know it, right? And that's where the Big Earl takes on this. So that's the Big Earl's take. We don't buy chargers. We don't buy computers from this guy. Your staff sergeant's telling you that. Well, old Staff Sergeant Cottrell, who, again, I have it on my plaque on one of my walls, where one of my famous lines as an counseling statement was, be a man, feed your kids, right? Like, it's on you, homie. We have, this is a funny story. I won't get into it too much, but, a guy was saying that he tried to file for like a $7,000 AER loan. And I'm like, you want a $7,000 AER loan? Well, I can't feed my kids, Sarge. All right. Old Sarge gave him a couple hundred, went to the store, got a couple $100, went and bought him some groceries. Homeboy bought a pack of Marlboro Lights and some chips too. And I'm like, nope.
Oh, Lord.
You ain't buying those. All right. But no, hey, I really appreciate you guys coming on. I'm going to give Jim one more plug at the SB 694, turn over Tanner, and I'll close it out. Jim, that's my piece. 694, hold people accountable for taking care of veterans. Stop trashing a system that helps hundreds of thousands of people in the state of California.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is, and this has been a great conversation, Tanner. Great to meet you, and great to be on the show, Big Girl, aka Nick. Um, yeah, I mean, accountability. I mean, investing in counties, but also make sure our electeds are putting mechanisms in place to hold us accountable, to get the feedback. There's the Cal. Talked about the California Association of County VSOs. Great group of veterans leading that. Over several counties in California. There's NAC VSO. Tanner mentioned Ann Knowles. She's amazing. Met her at NAC VSO. There's veterans like us at the national level that want to hear from you about what's not working. And then we want to take that to our electeds and work with them to build in accountability mechanisms. So yes, needs to be more investment in county, but there also needs to be more accountability. So, Staff Sergeant First Class Berman, I served with him at Fort Lewis, and man, it was a blast to see his name come up. Best Thursday sergeant's training ever. We were lost in training area 4 in Fort Lewis for like hours doing land nav. So good to see you on here, Sergeant First Class Berman. Love you, man. But the two comments that we had solved if we put accountability in place as we invest in counties. We can do this. We've been telling our California legislators that. You should be telling across the country, you should be telling your legislators, you guys can do better. It's time to do better. So that's it. Just really appreciate the show, Nick. Good info, good advice, and really got me thinking about, for a long time, I didn't know who my local representative was. I didn't know who my federal representative was, I didn't talk politics because I didn't like it, but I didn't talk politics because I didn't want to be a hypocrite. Outside of my wife and people that I'm close to that made me talk about it. But
Christmas dinner, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But that's great advice. I mean, you just shut your mouth unless if around politics, unless if you know who your people are. I love that, and I'm going to take that with me.
And then, yeah, for me, I would just really, I know I made the disclaimer earlier. To me, the VSOs are how they're solved in their organizations statewide and national wide. And I'm really calling on like the major ones, right? American Legion, the VFW, AUSA, name your branches association, whatever it is. There's issues that a lot of times our organizations get into it kind of with like the county commissioners association. You see this on like property taxes and stuff. Like every state wants 0 property taxes for whatever percentage veteran. Like we got to kind of circle the wagons here over this issue, right? Because it is holistic. But I would really encourage the national leadership of those organizations to look at the action arm of where this problem lies, or this problem kind of resides, which is with the county VSOs, and do everything we can to help them. Because the VFW cannot solve this problem. The AUSA cannot solve this problem. We do not have enough money. It ain't happening. Y'all saw the chart. We're not going to outspend these people. It's not going to happen, right? So where this happens is your face-to-face interaction with your neighbors and explaining to them why it's so important that people like Ann Knowles can hire another employee, right? Like, and why that needs to be included in the budget and why you're not going to complain about it, whatever, however your county tax stuff's set up. But that's the answer. You're never going to get rid of this stuff if we do not empower them. And that requires us to acknowledge that we can't fix it, right? And because we're not. Like, it's just not. The VFW at one point at the district level, I believe, has VSOs, and that's awesome. But not everybody's a member of the VFW. And I don't, that's why I appreciate this kind of platform, because I'm not here speaking just for VFW members. I think it should be all veterans, right? So if I have a guy that's not in the VFW, and yeah, I can make outreach to him, but I know what's coming next. We're going to ask him to become a member, right? Okay, man, I need a little bit of money. No, there's one place where you can just walk in and they have to help, right? And that's generally, well, two, I guess the VA can do it too. But I'm saying that the VSO in your local community is who is there to help you. And I really would love to see kind of the honor the contract movement really take the VSOs kind of under their wing with some of the legislative power we have, because as I communicate to our guys, there ain't nobody better. I mean, most counties are the same, right? You have your county building, and somewhere in there is the county VSO office. They know the county clerk, they know the city managers, they know whoever. These government buildings right there are a linchpin inside of that building. right? And it's about time for the vet community and the public to say, hey, that person's super important to us. And we need to make sure, just like we complain about the EMT and the fire chief and make sure all of them got their money, right? We need to make sure that this is, we're empowering them, because that's what's actually going to solve this problem. Like we could cut this off right now and make it illegal across the board, right? But if we don't actually funnel money to the people that are supposed to be doing it for free, then we're going to be sitting here again looking on the back end like, well, I don't understand why it's working. So that's my spiel. And if you have any questions about that, right, you know, especially to the guys that might take offense to what's going on here, I'm real easy to find. Kind of all over Cumberland County in the area. Like I ain't hiding. Like it's my government name on all my socials. And yeah, I'm more than willing to have the conversation, and connect you with people that would like to have the conversation, so we can actually get to a solution. Because again, like, you know, I see, at least in North Carolina, we've lost this for right now. I'm pulling for y'all out there in California, but the only way to do it through me is for vets to get involved in the local community. So Nick, thank you so much. It's really cool that you knew Ann. That's awesome. And thanks for the platform, Nick. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, this is an ad hoc to live that we did. Appreciate you guys coming on short notice. We'll dive back into this for sure. Get into it where we can actually like advertise it a little bit and then get some, you know, different voices on there. I got a lot of comments from, you know, active duty people who weren't going to comment on the show. And I think we addressed a lot of what they said as well. So I appreciate your guys' expertise in what you are all doing. One thing I do as a, you know, I did go to the Yale of the Southwest for my master's degree, which was UTEP, right? University of Texas, El Paso. Great organization, great university. And again, Yale of the Southwest, write it down, chalk it up. And, you know, for public administration. And one thing that they taught me was narrative is key. All right. Narrative is key. You can be 100% virtuous, right, doing the right thing, but the way you say it just turned off half your voting base. The way you say it just turned off half your funding base. Nothing is free. All right. Nothing is free. There is nothing free. Money does have to come and go in for these people that are volunteering at these VSOs to do these things. What should be free is already free to the veteran who earned it. So they it's not free to them. It's not, they've already earned it. They already paid for it. All right. You watching this, you listening to this on Spotify later, like this audio will be uploaded later. You listening to this, you earned it. Right. It's free. If it comes back and it says, you know, you didn't earn that, but you earned this. All right. Talk to your local representative. If that doesn't work, escalate it. All right. If it comes back that it doesn't, all right, maybe you didn't. Is that fair? All right. And then again, we don't want to get into that because that's the onesies and twosies stories. The big one is you earned your rights. You earned your benefits. $73 billion of taxpayers' money is getting rerouted to mansions in Pinehurst, mansions in other places. Imagine if that your taxpayers' dollars didn't go to mansions for veterans and it went into the veterans' pocket. Empower the VSOs to empower you. And that's why I'm going to encourage you again to call your local representative, and especially in the state of California, because that bill is going to get voted on soon. And this isn't saying to necessarily stop people from helping you or empowering you. It's make them get accredited. Make them get accredited to help you. Stop them from charging a fee that they should not charge you. Understand? Maybe, maybe not. Reach out to me, VTT's Big Earl. Go on veterantrashtalk.com, look it up. I mean, people call me over the t-shirts all the time, wearing the protector line. I answer it. I'm like, how'd you get my number? It's on the website. I don't know. Call me. I answer, homie. Right. And I'm going to be like, I don't know you, but I'll get you a new shirt, man. My bad. All right. Like it just is what it is. Call your local representative, California veterans, and civilians who want to empower veterans. Civilians, if you want to help veterans, go feed them at the line. right? There's Jim will take care of you there. You can volunteer your time. You want to empower veterans, call your representatives and say, accredit people who are getting veterans what they have earned. Get them the benefits. It's not free. Money's coming from somewhere. Get them the benefits they've earned. All right. Until then, we have no show this weekend, but we will see you in a couple of weeks. And again, I'm going to have these two back on sometime. We'll have a much more rehearsed and a much more detailed plan to talk about some things, and we'll get you on there. But hey, Jim, Tanner, thanks for coming on. And to our Marine in the background, all right, old muffin fingers back there. Appreciate you taking care of us and doing all the hard work back there on your what is it, Wednesday? Who even knows? The day ends in a Y. All right, so we'll see you guys next time. And again, we hold each other accountable. Hold yourself accountable. Love you guys. See you later.
Thanks, Nick.